Is everybody's microphones working?
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
You should be able to slide that a little bit more towards your face. You don't have to do that awkward lean in.
Okay.
Cool. This is pretty neat. How's everybody doing today? Cool. Yeah, I like it. I like it. What about this? Cool. Let's do it, everybody. Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everybody for being here. Again, make some noise for yourselves. Thank you. Feel free to make yourselves at home, and as, well, not as always, there's beer and soda in a van in the corner. Make some noise for North Country Brewing in the house. I'm sitting here today with 3 new friends. We could be friends. We're all friends here today. All of us could be friends, but I don't know all of your names, but I do know the names of the people sitting next to me. I'm sitting here today with Lynn, Dave, and Alina. They are the caretakers and whatnot of all of this artwork that you're seeing here in the room today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are? We are at the Art of Madness. It's a true crime art show. And to get things started, because I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions if you haven't already taken some time to talk with any of these people today, what are we looking at today? What is going on in this room, Dave?
Well, this is a piece, just a small piece of the total collection that Lynn and I purchased from a friend of ours who did this over 30 years as a career, during his career as a corrections officer. And he would communicate with these serial killers. He'd send them letters. They would respond in letters. He would talk them into selling them his art. And gosh, we have, I was telling some of the people, 9,000 letters of, so I think it was 213 3-ring binders of letters from over 100 different serial killers. And that's one part of the collection. Another part is the framed art, which is, I think we had brought 60 pieces here. We have about 75 framed pieces and another 100 unframed pieces. And then we have like the Heaven's Gate piece, which is a tangible object. And then 100 taped phone conversations of the criminals who used to call Richie, and then he would tape the conversation. So there's a variety of the serial killer memorabilia, and this is just a piece that we brought to show you. This is my girlfriend Lynn. We're the co-owners of it. This is our friend Alina, who is a longtime collector. We are not collectors. We are the owners and the curators of that collection. Alina is a collector. So we're approaching it from a different point of view, as does Alina. We can answer things differently than she can.
Our collection also isn't limited to just stuff that they made. We also have hair samples, clothing, personal items, arts and crafts, which is another aspect that was not included in this show.
Let me mention in terms of the hair, we have a lock of hair from Manson, a lock of hair from Gacy, from Norris, from Patricia Ford.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, actually, that's a good one. Ted Bundy was friends with Schaefer, who was another serial killer in Florida. And Schaefer befriended the nurse in the death row. And he used to go in and Schaefer was kind of a celebrity on death row because he was a police officer and one of Florida's first well-known serial killers. So they treated him like a celebrity in prison. He befriended the nurse in the death row, and she used to give him certain items. And 2 of the items that she gave Schaefer were a lock of Ted Bundy's hair when he was shaved for execution, and also a chip of the paint from his death row cell. So that's, some of the hair stuff. I don't know.
Some people might be interested in how John Wayne Gacy learned to paint so well. Part of our collection is also The Joy of Painting by Bob Ross. And it is John Wayne Gacy's copy that he had in his prison cell. I guess that's how he learned.
Yeah, it's a book about so big with Ross's picture on the cover and Gacy signed it in about 4 places. But
It's well used, too.
And before we go any further, Alina, please, you say a few things. We're dominating here. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I personally never got to correspond with Gacy because, like, I only started 11 years ago. So all my correspondences are, like, from then, on. So I still enjoy the older stuff, but, like, I'm more about the newer stuff and, like, more about current cases that are going on around the world. And, like, I don't just write serial killers. I write literally anyone. I write, yes, terrorists. I've gotten visits from the FBI for that. It was awesome when they came to my house and I was in my pajamas. I'm just, like, very, very interested in current cases, just anything that, like, catches my eye and I feel like I need to know what this person's thinking or how they're going to try to manipulate me. I will write them. And I've had pretty good luck over 11 years, but Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was the first pen pal I ever had, and we used to talk on the phone. And I actually found out he was sick through someone like a week before he died. So I swindled a Polaroid from someone for really cheap. But that's just part of the game. But yeah, a lot of people know that I sell their stuff, and it's, it's no big deal. A lot of them.
Tell me about your school murderers.
Oh, so I also I visit a lot of inmates and I correspond with a lot of school shooters because that's something that's really interesting to me and it's a huge issue we have. I don't condone it. I don't want anyone to think that, but it's just very interesting to get into the mind of someone that would do that. Considering like none of us sitting here would do something like that. I like to talk to people who would, because sometimes they explain themselves, other times they make excuses. But yeah, I've visited like maybe 5 school shooters all over, and I've been to an execution. So yeah, I've seen a lot. And every prison is extremely, extremely different. I'll say that.
So, Alina, with this particular collection that we're sitting in front of today, how much of this stuff had you seen in person before?
None of it.
Is this like
honestly
a lot for you to take in at once?
I mean, my friend Rick Staten, who actually was in the original documentary Collectors, got in touch with me and he said, "Hey, I need help. These people from Long Island contacted me about this collection, these 2, and they need help appraising it. Would you come out with me? Apparently it's huge." And I was like, sure, because I live in Brooklyn. So I went and I was honestly floored. I've like never seen so much at once. It was kind of like overwhelming. So I've been back a few times to help them appraise and like talk about everything, but we're not anywhere near done. So
Sure. So you don't even know like what you haven't found yet.
Right.
There's a good chance.
Exactly. Like there's so many bins. I've never seen so many bins. Like going through it, I'm just like, oh my God, you have like John Hinckley Jr. and just
Sure.
all these crazy names that like I've never seen in person that are like near impossible to get. So yeah.
Digging in again to the original person who collected all of these things, how much do we know about this person? And we talked a little bit about that they were collecting for 30-something years. Do we know like how they got started in collecting all this stuff?
I only know that as his career as a corrections officer, he would be able to contact the prisoners and communicate with them. I don't know if that was proper or reasonable to do, but he did it.
Sure.
And since he's deceased, it really doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, it wouldn't fly
I don't mean
now.
that in a nasty way.
No,
but
totally. Yeah.
Whatever it was, he did it during his career, and he had 100 boxes, 100 cardboard storage boxes in 2 storage facilities of this stuff. And, one day we were performing together. I'm a knife thrower. He's a magician. And he goes to me, well, let me tell you about the stuff that I have. I said, what do you mean? What have you got? And then he starts telling me, and he said, but, maybe I'd like to sell it someday, but I really don't know what I have. I've just been collecting it for so long. So over a couple months, he and I went back and forth to the storage facility and pulled out a box at a time. And I was with my laptop computer, typing everything and categorizing everything. And he suddenly realized what he had there in this storage facility. And, it shocked me. It was a total surprise. I didn't know he had this stuff. And then, it just went all back in storage, and it's sitting there until he died. And then Lynn and I took it over from there.
So what does the collection mean to you now? Like, is it like a historical significance, a cultural significance, a personal significance because it was somebody that you knew who owned all this stuff, or is it a mixture of all that stuff?
All 3.
Yeah.
When Richie was originally approached me about selling some of it, and I approached several people, some of the colleges that were like John Jay College in New York that had a criminal arts program, they and other people that we approached were interested in what Richie called cherry picking. I want the Gacy, I want the Manson, blah, blah, blah. And Richie said, I'll have no part of that. They either buy the whole collection or nothing. I'm not going to let it be diminished by removing the high-end stuff and leaving the rest. So I can say to that, when Lynn and I bought the collection from Richie's wife, who was also collecting with Richie, she said to me, do right by Richie. Those have been our guiding words. And, I've scanned all the stuff. So, we're selling some of the stuff, but we're selling not necessarily the best of the best. Some of the stuff that we're here and selling is just like introductory stuff into serial killer murderabilia. But the term do right by Richie is what we're doing here. We're showing the content of his collection and allowing people to create their own impression. We do not by any means, neither Alina, Lynn, nor I, condone what these people did. This, what you see here, is a piece of history, and it's what those people did in prison after they were caught. So, you may see people running up and down outside with signs picketing this whole collection. It may happen before we leave here, who knows? Victims' rights people that are screaming and yelling that this is horrible, you shouldn't be doing it. Okay, I understand their point of view, but that's good for them.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you.
Go right ahead.
But who's really profiting? I mean, think about all the shows that are out, the movies, like the books, like it's all over. It's on Netflix, ID Discovery. Like, they're the ones that are profiting off of this, really. Why aren't the victims' rights groups going after them? There's actually a man, Andy Cahan in Texas. He's trying to stop the sale of murderabilia completely, which I don't even understand how that's possible, because these are our rights. Like, why can't we write to inmates and trade or sell the letters? Why does that have to be illegal when I'm watching remake movies of like how Ted Bundy killed people? Like, I don't really understand that. So
Sure,
let me just add,
Yeah.
up there on the wall is a piece by Elmer Wayne Henley. It looks like an owl?
Koala.
Oh, a koala bear. The guy that she was talking about went to one of the art shows and bought some of Elmer Wayne Henley's art, walked out in the street, threw gasoline on it, and burned it. And he said, well, that's it. It's gone. Nobody will ever have this stuff again. So, good for him. If he wants to spend his money on it and get it off the market and then burn it, that's his problem. It's not mine.
But meanwhile,
And it shouldn't be
he
yours.
also has a collection that he hasn't burned. He buys from us, actually. He buys from people, and he says it's for his presentations, quote unquote. But like, why do you need the actual item? Why can't you just do a PowerPoint? Because you're secretly obsessed. This is your life. This is, you're obsessed with it just as much as we are. The world is fascinated by murders and things like that. Like, it's natural curiosity. We can't help it, But I don't see how, burning one piece and then keeping the rest is helping anyone. I don't know. That's just me.
Bringing up the documentaries is a really good segue, because one of the things that I was thinking about immediately when I saw this event getting announced was that this is almost like a documentary in the form of an art exhibit without the framing of the people making the documentary. You get to come in here and actually form your own opinion on each of these people based on the pieces. And I think that's really cool. It might not be, you might be putting some really weird things into your brain, trying to put yourself into the artistic mindset of some of these people, but it's not necessarily a bad thing to do that, to try to understand why somebody would do some of the things that they've done, because a lot of times people don't tap into those feelings, and it's a whole nother conversation that, to be completely honest with all of you, I'm not smart enough to have. But I think that there's a lot to be said for an exhibit like this, and it's really cool that we're putting it together, because like you said, Alina, everybody does have that sort of morbid curiosity when it comes to these things.
That's why we're here.
There's probably 60 people in this room right now that are all here because they're curious about what's going on. So regardless of anybody that might not think this is a great idea, you don't have to be here, and those people aren't here, and that's fine. We kind of talked a little bit about this, the moral conflicts of any of this stuff. Is there anything with any of you in terms of the moral conflicts about presenting this stuff? I know we touched on that a bit, but it was something that I was curious about, because even when I was just posting that, hey, I'm doing this podcast at this thing, I had some people that were like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. And it's like, okay, well, I guess, but I'm curious to know. I want to learn about this stuff, so I'm going to go talk to them.
All right, well, can I just say something?
Absolutely.
I actually went to school for photography, and there's going to be moral conflicts with anything you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a documentary photographer, and I might document a group of people or someone that's controversial, but that doesn't mean that I align myself with those beliefs. And I feel like it's my human right to talk to these people, and I'm just going to say it. There are so many innocent people on death row, too, that I talk to that are getting executed all the time. It's like, how can you really know? And, there's a lot of, I'm not excusing anyone's behavior, but teenagers, people with mental illness and stuff like that. I'm not trying to broadcast it everywhere. I'm not having a fucking show on Netflix or Hulu, where the victims' families have to relive it. And I'm not contacting any of them. I'm not throwing it in their face, but it's my human right to talk to these people. So, if someone came to me with a good argument,
sure,
and talked to me and said, I'd really appreciate it if you didn't sell my son's stuff or whatever, I would say, okay, I completely understand, and that's fine. I won't, because I have respect for people, and that's cool. But if you come at me aggressively, I'm not really going to listen. Talk to me like a normal person, and, I'll respect your wishes. That's fine.
Fair enough. So while we got everybody here, sitting here watching us, we got a room full of art, let's take a little bit of time to maybe go through some of the more key pieces in the room, if you wouldn't mind. I don't know who wants to lead the charge on this conversation, but it seems like something we should probably do.
Yeah, so I'll start a little bit here, and Dave, Alina, you guys can shoot in as I kind of go through. I'll kind of start for here. The first piece in the upper left-hand corner in the Gacy section right here is Gacy's Adolf Hitler. It was the first piece that I saw out of this collection back in 2012. And I didn't know what true crime collecting was, what murderabilia was. I didn't know anything. I hardly knew who Gacy was. I knew he was a clown. He killed a lot of boys and hid them under the house. That was kind of it. And when I saw that, and I never saw that expression, everything, it hit me, and I was like, wow, what is in this collection is kind of heavy. And then over there, you'll also see Pogo, and what else is over there? The pen artist, Richard Angelo. Oh, yeah. I'll get over
He
there.
burned down a club, right?
No.
in New York?
That's
Gonzalez.
That's
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. Yeah, that's over there.
Explain your bread and blue.
Oh, we'll skip over to just underneath the large Manson painting by Gaxiola, who's an inmate with Manson. Below that is Red and Blue Dot. That is Lynette Fromm and Susan. Last name.
Susan.
Sorry? No,
Atkins?
it's
Atkin?
no,
Lynette
it's
Fromm.
Lynette Fromm and Sandra Good. Sandra Good was
Thank you.
blue,
Yes. And
Right.
Lynette Fromm is red.
was red. And I
So-
actually have a swatch of Sandra Good's shirt for sale.
Yeah, I think Lynette Fromm was because of the red hair, and Sandra Good had blue eyes. And he referred to them as
Red, and blue.
blue.
They were his like main girls. So
And that was his tribute to the two girls.
they still stand by him to this day, which people don't really know. They're both out of prison, but they're still avid Manson supporters. So those pieces are really unique that he did pieces on them. It's really uncommon.
And I just want to chime in real quick. I'm just curious about, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that, for lack of a better word, like romanticize a lot of this stuff.
Unfortunately.
What has been like your contact? 'Cause I'm not even going to ask if you've had interactions with people like that. I know you have. You had to have. So what has that been like?
I guess I'll be the one to take
Yeah, all
this.
yours.
So I don't know if anyone's familiar with Tumblr.
Yeah.
There's like a big true crime community on there, and I used to have a true crime blog, but I just posted about cases and just posted pictures. I didn't post crime scene photos, just kept it really, as it was, just kind of reporting it. And I had like close to 40,000 followers before Tumblr deleted, but seeing all the blogs that like are like in love with, like school shooters and younger shooters, it's just kind of like what I've realized is that's like, to them, that's the accessible celebrity in a way, because this person is all over. You're seeing their face on the news and they're here and they're there, and you can reach out to them and they'll probably write you back. And so it's become, it grosses me out because it's delusional and it's unhealthy, like I'm not saying anything is wrong with having a relationship with an inmate. I had one for a year. I was with a woman in Washington for a year. Didn't work out. Usually they don't, unfortunately, but it's mostly like I've noticed people under the age of 21 who like see these young school shooters and are like, oh my God, he's so hot. Like, I love him. I'm in love with him. A lot of them pretend to have relationships. It's just, the internet is such a ridiculous breeding ground for that I just like try to completely stay away from it, because it's like, no one's going to listen to me. No one cares. Like, I've tried to talk to younger people and be like, look, like, you need to chill out. Like, this is not cool, not cute. It's just not healthy. You don't know this person. And a lot of the people that they're obsessed with, I do actually know, and I've met. So I'm kind of like, you don't want to get involved with this person. You don't want to write them romantically or whatever. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want my parents to catch me. And I say, don't ever write when you're living at your parents' home. That's just not, unless you have their permission, it's just not acceptable. So like, I don't condone that whole
Or you
side.
want the FBI to show up.
What?
Or you want the FBI to show up.
It happens. It really, really does. And these people don't understand. Like, I contacted certain people, the FBI showed up to my house. And it can happen if you're my age, 30, or it could happen if you're 15. Who's going to handle it better? Me, who lives on my own, or like a 15-year-old who's with their parents and their parents had no idea that they wrote this person? It's really unfortunate that part exists, but it's always going to exist. And there are people who have true hybristophilia, who are attracted to criminals and are attracted to crimes. And then there are just lonely people who just fetishize, because these are, in their minds, celebrities that they can contact and reach out to. So
Sure. I think it seems like the best thing that you could do in that situation is just know how to talk to those people and how to just state your case and make your point to them, and whether either they take the information
Right.
or they don't.
Right.
There's only so much that you can control.
I
on
mean,
your own.
I've helped a few, but I mean, with every 3 that I help, there's about 300 that I can't get through to. So like, what the fuck's the point? I mean, I give up.
With that being said, how many people, if you had to give me a rough estimate, do you think you've been in contact with over the past 11 years collecting?
Inmates?
In general, like just in general, like how many people do you think you've talked to? Like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds?
With my Tumblr and inmates, I would say probably like around 60,000.
It's a lot of people.
Unfortunately, because they don't really like enjoy it, but you know, like sometimes people need advice, and I'm there to give it, especially when it's like younger people who don't really understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Because honestly, writing prisoners, I mean, I've never had anything happen to me, you know, but when you write prisoners, some of them will trade your info. They'll give other inmates your address. They'll give other inmates your photographs. And it's like, then you get a letter from like some serial rapist who's getting out in a year. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and like, that's why I tell people, if you want to do this seriously, get a P.O. box. Stay safe. I use an alias half the time. It's just how you have to do it sometimes. You never know what you're getting yourself into.
It makes sense. You know, I have to be completely honest. I never thought about this at all. But everything that you're saying makes sense. I just never even considered.
A big
Obviously,
thing.
there's people doing this, but I'm like,
Yeah,
I just never thought about it.
They trade inmates trade photos of younger girls who write them. You never know who's going to get your address or your letter.
Yeah,
you really don't. And I remember a lot of the girls who were fantasizing. I don't know if you guys remember the school shooter, TJ Lane from Ohio. He shot up Sheridan High School. He had a really big fandom. And he literally just started handing out his mail. And there were people writing, literally 14, 15-year-old girls pretending to be him and saying like really crazy stuff until he got thrown in the hole. And I was the one to be like, these letters are not from him. These are fake. Here are what real letters look like. Here's his real signature. If you see this, this is not his signature. If you're under 18, just please don't write. So there's only so much I can do. I mean, it's not my job to raise other people's kids.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely not. So let's pick up where we left off on the collection and try to go through some more of these key pieces.
Sure. So as we go down, there's Julio Gonzalez. He's got some of the cartoons over there right under the Black 360 group sign. And he was the Happy Land killer. His girlfriend worked in the coat room at Happy Land nightclub, which is an after-hours nightclub in the Bronx. And it was downstairs, only had one exit, the stairway that went up. He got into a fight with a girl. He threw gasoline down the stairs, lit it on fire. All 87 people that were inside that nightclub perished. So, and then if you see these drawings, Richie's wife would also correspond. It was kind of a hobby for them. They understood that the inmates would manipulate them, but they had one up. They were manipulating the inmates to get what they wanted. So that's what you kind of see when you go through the entire collection. Am I right, David? Would you say?
Yeah, and let me add that when Richie was doing it, he even though he was a corrections officer, when he would write to them, he told them he was the manager of a titty bar. So he would manage
And they were like,
the
fuck
dancers of a titty bar. So that the inmates would be rather excited, and in the letters, they would write back to him saying, well, are there any new girls that you've interviewed lately? So he got their interest by them thinking he managed the bar and the dancers. And his wife, Barbara, actually went to a strip club and paid the dancers $100 to take their photo. And she explained to them, I'm going to give you $100. I'm going to take a Polaroid photo of you, and I'm going to use that photo as me. So she would send a male inmate
Old school catfishing.
the photo of not her, but explaining that was her. So of course the inmate would get all excited over this attractive pole dancer, and then begin corresponding back. Who's the guy that we have the 200 or 20 volumes?
Oh,
Robert Bardo murdered
Rebecca Schaefer.
The
actress.
And she had Barbara contacted Bardo.
Do not write Bardo.
Do
not ever write Bardo. You will never stop hearing.
Bardo was a
mailbox will be full
total
every
nutcase,
day.
and he was sending Barbara 3 letters a day. We have literally 20 volumes, 3 ring binders of letters from Bardo, plus tons of drawings that he did. So, the inmate doesn't really know who they're writing to, as long as the person is kind of, at the P.O. box and a pseudonym and perhaps a make-believe photo of them. So, I found that interesting that the males would respond to Richie thinking he ran a titty bar, and the other males would respond back to Barbara thinking she was this very hot, attractive pole dancer.
So they were then like working on this collection as a couple then together.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
that's a real special thing to have in
Hobby.
a relationship, I would say.
I mean, I wish my girlfriend would help me out, but she fucking won't. So
I imagine it probably is a lot of work to start, but I imagine they were doing it for so long, it just becomes second nature, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And like, forgive me for the bad pun, but it's like you're a serial collector.
it's almost like robotic. It
Yeah.
becomes kind of mind numbing at times. Like, unless, I do have a few certain inmates that I'm really, really focused on that I feel close to, and it's very different. But a lot of them, they're writing me trying to play me, so I'm kind of playing the role that they want. And I know they're trying to manipulate me. I've had inmates tell me that, oh, your family doesn't care about you. I'm the only one who cares about you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. When I've said nothing about my family. So it's like, you kind of got to recognize it right away. And that's why I also worry about younger people writing and getting manipulated into it, pulled into it, because you really have to stay on your game. You have to be on guard with some of these guys, because you really never know.
They're on an ego trip. They want to be in charge. They want to be in control. They want to guilt trip you. Any of the letters that I read, and I'll read volume after volume, and I'll go through it, and you just continue to read. Why didn't you answer the phone? I called you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7.
Yeah.
And then when Richie would write back, he'd have to be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I'm horrible." And but that's how he played into it to get what he wanted. To get, that was his interest, collecting this, making this, and going back to the point is, do right by Richie, bringing it to the public, showing people what he found out when he was getting into the minds of madness.
Yeah, definitely. So, are there any other pieces in the room that we want to talk about? I'm actually going to open this up for some audience questions if anybody wants to ask them anything in a few minutes. But if there's any other pieces that we wanted to break down real quick.
Okay, so something.
David, do you have any? Are you?
No, I talk about the clothing.
Oh
that,
yeah, the clothing.
Pamela Smart, Susan Smith, Christopher Scarver. They would send their clothing out of the prison, and it would be a simple thing. If Richie would say to any female, "Send me some personal clothing," in a heartbeat, he would have it. He would say, "Send me some of your hair." They'd clip off their hair and send the hair.
No.
I don't know, why, but they did it. It was, you want it? Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, out of their collection, I would really say that I'm extremely impressed with the Joel Rifkin art, because he's actually an amazing artist. He's known as the New York Ripper, but he has been extremely depressed since being in prison because his mother passed away. So he doesn't really do art anymore. And so to see that, I was like amazed because I've only ever seen one piece of his art. And like I have letters from him, I have cards from him, but he's never sent me art because he just is too depressed to do it. So to see all that Rifkin art is kind of like, it blows my mind a little.
Yeah, we have 4 pieces from Joel Rifkin. There's the polar bear and dog, I believe, and then the sunset angel and the cat. And the cat is actually Barbara and Richie's cat. They sent a picture of their cat, Santara, and he drew it for them. So that's little bits and pieces of that group.
And I think Aline had mentioned about, the relationship you have with the inmate. John Wayne Gacy, for example, was highly manipulative, highly controlling. And in the letters and in the phone conversations that we have taped, you'd hear Gacy getting angry with Richie, saying, "You promised you were going to send me a picture. I want to see a picture of you." And then Richie would send him one like from a distance, like from here to the van in the back, of him on a porch, where Richie wasn't really identifiable. And then Gacy would get all pissed off at him and said, "Where's the picture you promised me?"
Well, it's like a lot of people, I want it now. And it's like, if you take, God forbid, 2 days, they're like, why aren't you sending, did you send it? Did you send, like, it's not everyone, but some people get that way. Christopher Scarver, who killed Jeffrey Dahmer, he's extremely controlling, extremely manipulative, and he wants it his way all the time. If you don't respond to him immediately, he flips out. If you don't take his call, he flips out. So it's just like a control thing. They want to control you, some of them. And Gacy was definitely a master manipulator. And if anyone has read the book that Jason Moss wrote, it's complete fabrication, by the way. If you really want to know about Gacy, you should watch Collectors with Rick Stanton. That's what, because that book is complete BS. None of it ever happened. So.
And I need to mention one other letter that we have that's so cool. We have, I think, 2 letters from Dahmer.
You do.
To Richie. And then one, can you read it?
Yeah.
Sure you can read it. You'll love this letter.
Those are the holy grail, I would say. And they have a binder full of Ed Kemper letters. That too is like.
Yeah. There's the Kemper letters. But this letter to Richie had wrote, you're going to hear the response that Dahmer sent to Richie. But in Richie communicating with Jeffrey Dahmer, Richie mentioned he was a bodybuilder in the letter. So now you'll see Jeffrey Dahmer's response to that.
This is March 18th, 1994. Dear Richard.
You sound
hello.
just like him.
Hello, how are you today? I just received your letter this afternoon and thought I'd write back. It's always nice to get mail from someone new. I'd like to get to know you better, but with all the mail that I get, it's difficult to know who I should respond to. So, in your next letter, would you please send me some really good photos to help make your letter, quote unquote, stand out in the crowd? You said that you're a bodybuilder. That's good. I'd like to see every unclothed, muscular inch of you. I'm allowed to keep any type of photo except Polaroids, so don't take the pictures with a Polaroid camera, okay? Well, Richard, thanks for writing. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you soon. Sincerely, Jeff.
Wow.
If that doesn't put the hair up on your back, nothing will.
I mean, it made me feel really romantic. I don't know. Also, the reason you can't send Polaroids is because the prison thinks you're going to hide drugs in them because they could be peeled apart. So while they can send you Polaroids, which is now just Fujifilm Instax, you cannot send them. That's why. But yeah, Dahmer was a romantic guy. What can I say?
I am like,
eat my heart out,
I'm just gonna do it. I couldn't contain myself. So, does anybody have any questions for the group up here? I have a microphone up here. If you here, you can grab this mic and ask these people a question.
I'm going to look through some of the folders here that I have. Maybe I'll read a couple of other
Cool,
documents.
that'd be cool. You have a question?
Just wondering if you're still collecting Or is this it?
Well, okay, speaking for Lynn and I, we are not collectors. We don't actively seek buying stuff, nor do we write to the criminals. We have just purchased Richie's collection and consider ourselves the curator of the collection. And this is our first,
Yeah.
the caretaker, curator. This is our first showing of some of the collection. For your morbid curiosity, if you will. But Alina definitely is still.
I'm actively still collecting, and I'm not gonna stop. And I even told the FBI that when they came to my house, I was like, "You can come here all you want, but I'm not gonna stop." And they were like, "Okay, whatever." So.
In that case, have you considered any of the Western Pennsylvania serial killers that have been written about?
I mean, I actually have a whole stack of letters from Pennsylvania killers, including one from Pittsburgh. 2009, Richard Poplawski had a shootout with the police. I have a ton of letters from him. He's actually getting married soon, and he invited me to his wedding. So I will be attending his wedding, and I will be posting pictures on my Facebook. But yeah, I correspond with a lot of people from Pennsylvania. Also, I don't know if you remember the murder of Jason Sweeney, Nicholas Koya, Dominic Koya brothers, Edward Batzig, and Justina Morley, who was kind of behind it all. She manipulated all of them into killing him. I've corresponded with everyone but her. Females don't really like to talk to me. I can't imagine why. But yeah, like I have letters from them. I have Edward's ID, his prison ID. Edward Batzig. He was. No, not yet. No. I think the most recent person in Pennsylvania I corresponded with was Cosmo DiNardo. But it's also Pennsylvania recently changed their rules. You can't write directly to the prison anymore. You have to write to an address in Florida where they screen your mail and then they send it to them. So it's become a lot harder.
Any other questions out here? Here. You can grab this and then from this point, if anybody else has any questions, just get it from this nice person that's going to ask something.
Elena?
Alina.
How do you decide who you reach out to? Or do you just kind of like hope for everyone?
I guess I would say one of those that kind of hopes for everyone. I don't know. I'm really interested in juvenile cases, like especially juveniles being tried as adults. And I'm really interested in seeing how they've changed. You know, like I've visited a school shooter like 20 years after he committed his crime. That really interests me. Serial killers, the way their minds work really interests me. I really don't discriminate. I kind of just want to talk to everyone. I want to know what's going on, you know?
Would you ever pull, like the chick who did the first season of Serial, if like you found somebody that you thought was innocent and sort of kind of roll with that?
I mean, it's so hard with that because so many people claim to be innocent that it's like, that's not my specialty. So like, I can't help prove it. I feel like if their lawyers couldn't do it, you know,
Right.
like I'm just me, like I'm a photographer, I'm a dog walker, you know, like I don't have any special like training or skills. It's just like I enjoy talking to people and that's really all I can do. Like the most I can do is try to get them help with the Innocence Project, but like, you know, I don't think I could do something like that. And also like even this is really weird for me because like I hate attention. So this is really overwhelming. But yeah,
You're doing real good.
Thank you. So are you.
And one last part, sorry. Have you ever corresponded with any of like the serial killers that are pretty infamously like unanimous they did it that you think didn't?
That I think didn't. Wow, that's a really tough one. Doug Clark, the Sunset Strip Slayer, who was partnered with Carol Bundy. There's a lot of evidence proving that she did it. Also, I have a friend on death row in Florida, Michael Bargo, and he was a teenager and he was part of it was a group killing and one kid was killed. But like he didn't have the motive, the other people did. But they wanted a deal, and Florida just wanted someone to put in the chair, so they pinned it all on him. So, like, I do think he's innocent. They were, like, saying they found his DNA in the apartment, but he used to live in that apartment. So it's things like that, but, like, there's nothing I can personally do about it, unfortunately.
What is the Innocence Project?
The Innocence Project basically helps inmates who have been, sentenced to crimes they didn't commit. Mostly murders, like people who are serving life, people who are on death row. So that's what the Innocence Project does, and it's helped a lot of people. I'm actually still very, very torn on the West Memphis 3. I don't know, you guys are familiar with that case? Damian Eccles and
Yep.
yeah, I'm on the fence about that. I've met Damian many times. I've hung out with him. I have his number in my phone, and there's something with him. There's just a darkness in his eyes, and even though I watched those HBO documentaries, West of Memphis or whatever, I still have a feeling that they are guilty. So, unpopular opinion, but.
So as far as the school shooters you've talked to, what has been like the overwhelming, like what do they say? Is there like one thing that kind of sets them off to do that, or is it varied?
It really varies, but I've noticed that a lot of it comes from mental illness that hasn't been found yet. A lot of it comes from having a really hard family life. A lot of it does unfortunately come from bullying. Some of it doesn't. There's only a couple completely unrepentant school shooters that I've talked to. The rest, I feel like if they got out, they would never harm anybody again. And that's something that I'm really interested in. But, also we have to remember that when you go into prison at such a young age and you get an adult sentence, you start learning the ways of how to manipulate and trick and get your way. So it's even if you're inherently a good person who did something really horrible, you're not getting rehabilitation. You're only learning more ways to hurt and manipulate and get your way, get what you want. So it's really hard for me to say, I have faith in a couple, but I still see things in them that I know that they've picked up in prison over the years.
Are you willing to share any of the people who were school shooters that you've spoken to?
Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Okay, well, who?
I am.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So I've spoken to Wayne Lowe. He was an Asian school shooter at Bard Rock College. I visited him. I've spoken to Michael Carneal, Heath High, Luke Woodham, Pearl High, Kip Kinkle, Thurston High. A recent case here, but it was a school stabbing, Alex Herbal. That was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that was
Yeah. And
Franklin Regional.
Alec Creeder, but I wouldn't say he was a school shooter, but he did kill his classmate here and the parents. I think that was Manheim Township. Let me see. Yeah, Bobby Gladden in Maryland, who actually didn't kill anyone. He was 15, and he was hoping to get suicide by cop, and he just got tackled, and he got a 35-year sentence when he really should be getting mental help. He was self-harming. He was wanting to die. Corresponded with T.J. Lane from Ohio, Sheridan High. Andrew Worst, that was also a Pennsylvania school shooting, I think in 98 or 97, right? He shot up a dance here. He's a real dick. He's like a nerd who thinks he's real special and all he talks about is porn stars. And I'm like, okay, dude. He's like, do you have any really hot girls for me? And I'm like, oh, they're all lining up for you, brother. I feel like I've almost talked to every living school shooter. I've had a lot of luck with that. I have. Yeah. I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question.
You did.
adequately.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
We're gonna do time. We have time for one more question if anybody has one, and then we're gonna read another letter, and then we're gonna wrap this up. So, hey.
Okay, so first, Pittsburgh question. Does anyone have any information on Robert Wayne Marshall? Serial killer here in Pittsburgh. Left pieces, parts of people in dumpsters all over the city.
Robert Wayne Marshall. I know a
was like,
Wayne.
what?
I know a Wayne Marshall, but he's a white supremacist. I don't think that is.
It
the
was
same.
Robert Wayne Marshall.
I don't, unfortunately. But
Okay,
thank
so
you.
guys, go home, look that up. There was a serial killer in Pittsburgh, early 90s. I want to say 92.
I will be writing him. Thank you.
Actually, he did. Who said that?
He committed suicide.
Oh, I will not
Either
be
you
writing
knew that or you're really quick with your fingers. Okay. 2, you spoke of having audio recordings of the serial. Where can I hear that at?
Currently,
We're considering doing a podcast with them, but right now, they're just sitting in
private.
private files that we
Okay,
have.
so what do I do? Give you my email address, we find out how I hear about this?
Well, the website is serialkillermurderabilia.com, and the Instagram is at serialkillermurderabilia.
Okay.
We might be posting some of those audio tapes in little pieces at a time for the public.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Maybe if we can tomorrow, maybe we can try and hook it up.
Yeah, actually, I have them on the computer,
Yeah.
so maybe tomorrow.
I would love to hear
If
them.
people here, we may broadcast.
They're being modest because a lot of big things are coming. They're just not talking about it, but you guys just wait. You're going to get to see a lot more, and then you're going to get to hold it in your hands and own it. So
Thank
that's
you.
a promise. Yeah.
So what do I do with this?
I'll take it back.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and we're gonna read one more letter, right, Dave?
Yeah, I hope this puts the hair up on your back as it does to anyone that I've ever read this to. On that wall there, under the 360, on the top right is a drawing by Otis Toole. Otis Toole, along with who the hell did he confess to?
Henry Lee Lucas was his
Toole
partner.
and Lucas confessed to doing a zillion murders, which probably wasn't true, but they used that excuse to have the police take them out of prison to go on a road trip
Get milkshakes.
to get milkshakes and whatever while they were out to talk about the crimes that they alleged to do. One of the crimes that Toole had confessed to was murdering Adam Walsh, who was a young kid
6.
that was kidnapped from a Sears in Florida and then beheaded.
Well, his dad runs the show.
And his
Yeah.
father,
Yeah.
Adam Walsh, started.
John Walsh.
John Walsh started America's Most Wanted. But in prison, Otis Toole and his cellmate, Juan Vega, is it? Hold on. Juan Vega. Okay, so the two of them would. Shit. Hold on 1 second. I scrolled too fast. I want to read you one of the poems that these clowns wrote. We have like 10 or 15 copies of the same poem. They would just constantly write them and send them out.
Attention seeking. So.
Okay, this one is. Make it, just bear with me because you got to hear this. Okay, this is Welcome to Hell. We will take your life, eat out your heart. We will rip the core of you apart. We will laugh real hard as you lose your mind. We will crush your skull, then pull out your brain and dance all over whatever remains. We are not taking no prisoners and not taking no slaves. We are taking your soul directly to hell, where eternal flames surely await. There you will be in torment with us forever, more till pain takes its course. We will drive you insane and out of your mind till the end of your time. This is for real and surely no dream. Awaken suddenly with blood-curdling scream. Jump up, look ahead. We will return to possess you, because we are the fire, we are the force, and we have the power to make all evil take its due course. We are the cannibal, we are the psychopath. And now we are welcome to now you are welcome to our house with Satan. And that's signed by Juan Vega, the psychopath, and
Otis.
Otis Toole.
Welcome to Poetry Night, you guys. I bet you didn't see that coming.
This is like just one of the many letters that we have from Otis Toole and Juan Vega, who wrote all this crazy poetry. So as we begin to read more of the stuff and understand more of it, it just blows our mind. As you can see, that is like total nuts. I can read one more if you will.
We'll do one more and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay. The hand of death. Mighty rivers begin with springs of blood, and springs begin with cuts of flesh. Thus, hopefully, our first embrace will always be your final fate. If any luck does come your way, you may escape the hands of Jewel of Otis Toole, who jabs the heart then eats it apart. Thus, the only way which life could bring will be a first of roasted heart and bloody wine, which suits us fine. Florida State Prison, maximum security by Otis Toole, the cannibal, and Juan Vega, the psychopath. Now, how'd you like to get mail like that every other day? There you go. Thank you.
Well, Dave, thanks for that. Happy Halloween, everybody. Lynn, Dave, Alina, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, to chat with everybody here. I want to thank everybody for coming out. There's another podcast after this, so stick around. And
Just so you guys know, Alina has a lot of her stuff here, and she's actually selling a lot of it. We have some merch and some items for sale, but she's more than happy to talk about everything that she has brought here and for you guys to look at, possibly purchase, and just pick her mind.
I will give you reasonable prices. Ask me about anything. If I don't have something here, I might have it at home, and I'm always happy to help with anything.
cool. So that's all, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Gonna wrap this up. I want to thank you all for being here again one more time. Lynn, Dave, Alina, thanks for being here. My name is Sykes, and Queens of NC-17 are coming up next. Stick around, get a beer, do a pee, do a poop, do what you gotta do. Just don't kill anybody, okay? Thanks.